Jack sends each of you his personal regrets with the following message and life lesson. Butch, I now pass the torch for Jack's message to you. Thank you.
Thanks. We're going to switch over there, Mark. Thank you. So, I see a lot of familiar faces out here. I see a lot of people I've never seen before. So, I know some of you are probably thinking, wait a minute, that's not Jersey Jack up there. Who's this guy? What happened? We did the old bait and switch on you or what? Well, it just so happens that Jack's father got sick at the beginning of this week, and he went down there. I'll read a short message from him in a little bit, but he had a problem with his kidney, and looked like they were, it was going to be a pretty one-way deal. So he went down to Orlando, flew down there immediately, stayed there all week long, and it came down to basically, come to the show, fly clear across the country again for a day, or spend another day with his dad. And he made the right choice. Family first. It's really not even a choice at all. So, my name is Butch Peel. I've worked for Jersey Jack since 2012. I met Jack in the Texas Pinball Festival. He started his business and started the company actually on January 1st, 2011 on Charlie's podcast over there. I met him, I think it was March of 2011 when he came to talk at the Texas Pinball Festival and talk about this great game, the Wizard of Oz, he was going to make. And I'm sitting out in the audience and listening. Actually, I was sitting in the front row because I wanted to hear about this. My wife wanted the Wizard of Oz game really bad. She's like, we got to get one of these. And I was like, we can't afford one of these. But somehow we found a way. And I said, he's going to knock it out of the park. I got to have one of those games. So I went told my wife after the seminar, I think we're going to get one of those games. And she's like digging in her purse. I've got the money for the down payment right here. And I'm like, no, it's not that drastic. We don't have to do that yet. So, long story short, I ended up buying a game. I got on the pinball forum there for owners of Wizard of Oz and Jersey Jack customers. Came up with Jack's Jack of all trades, master of fun line. I coined that one for him. I got his attention. I kept bothering him by email, asking if there's anything I could do. Rolled around to the next Texas Pinball Festival, and he says, well, let's meet and have dinner and talk about it. He says, I think I like your passion. I think you might have a place in the company. I can find something for you to do. And I'm like, heck yeah. So I met him at the next Texas Pinball Festival. We talked. Then he went and give this seminar at the second Texas Pinball Festival, and he called me out in the audience. He said, that guy right there, he's going to work for me. I'm going to send him around all over the country. He's going to work on our games. He's going to do tech support, do that kind of stuff. I was super excited. My daughter was getting ready to go to college, and she's like, heck, I want to work with you, Dad. I don't want to go to college. No, that's not acceptable. So the things just kept rolling along. They get the games ready to ship, and then he comes up and says, I need a guy to write manuals. And so I said, well, I'm an unusual electrical engineer. I can actually write. And, I'm not one of those guys that says, you know what I meant. I'll tell you what I meant. I put it in writing and all. So he says, you really? Within minutes, he's sending me documents and telling me, you're going to write my manuals now. And then the next Texas Pinball Festival, next time I'm doing the seminar for Jersey Jack Pinball. So it just went that fast from 1 year to 1 year to 1 year. It's great. This is a dream job for me. I have a bunch of different ways that I've been involved with pinball. Pinball started out as an interest when I was a kid. My mom was a big bowler, and they had bowling alley had a bunch of pinball machines, and we used to found that some of the coin switches were a little too tight on one of the KISS pinballs, so you could pound on the coin door a little bit, get some free credits. So we would do that. There's a $10 roll of quarters between a couple of kids would go really fast. We weren't very good. I'm still not very good, but I love playing. As I got a little older, I found out you could get some of these pinball machines. You could buy them. You could fix them up. You could do things with them. It became a hobby of mine. I found that, the more I did it, the more I got interested, the more I loved it. It just became a big passion for me. And then Jack hired me, and it became my job. And then I was doing it part-time, and now I've retired from my Department of Defense job for 32 and a half years. I was an electrical engineer for the Army Research Lab at White Sands. I'm now a full-time pinball guy, and pinball is my life. And I'm not sad about it one bit. It's a dream job. So my roles at JJP, first and foremost, I read the game manuals for all of our games. So if you've seen those big books, you know, if you're picking one of those up, you need to have one of those back braces on. They're pretty heavy. I've worked with all kinds of manuals. I love pinball, you know, repairing and fixing things. I've seen Bally games and Williams games and Gottlieb games and you know, all different eras where they change the circuit boards, electromechanicals, and I've seen documentation from all that trying to fix these games. And I picked the best of, you know, that works really well. That's really nice. You know, if that were changed just a little bit, it might be a lot more clear. If they'd add some more, you know, visuals, that really stinks. I can't stand that. You know, and I picked the best of all that and tried to bring it to a Jersey Jack manual. And luckily, it's hit pretty well. People enjoy them. I put a digital version and a printed version out. So the printed version takes a little longer to get to because try and wait till all the dust settles. Everything's changed. All the revs and everything are up to date. And then we put some photos in the making of and have a lot of fun with that. So out of the dialed in manual, here's some Pinagogo. So shout out to the guys here at Pinagogo in some prior years that Ron here gave me a bunch of photographs and I was able to put some of those together. So these are a couple of pages in the dialed in manual that you know, everybody's going to have. So you guys are like famous here. The other thing I do at JJP is create service and maintenance videos for games. So we did some early games, some early videos on the Wizard of Oz and Hobbit, and showing how play fields and everything work, and just talking about things that were underneath the play field and how things on the bottom translated to motion and working on the top. Just real, you know, starting crawling before it could walk, before we could run kind of stuff. And then I'm starting to do some more videos now that will be more specific to tasks, like changing that elusive rubber at the top of the Wizard of Oz game, that when it snaps, you've got one post that's up under there. Yeah, take a bunch of stuff loose, and not as much as you might think, and that's where video comes in handy. So those are fun to do. Also, I do a lot of work in helping production. So being in the documentation, I have a lot better drawings than a lot of the stuff that they have at the factory. So I'm able to make drawings for the factory that have, you know, all the correct part numbers and everything. Some of the mechanical engineers get a little lazy with some of the descriptions and things like that. You know, they get that, you know what I meant, role. Everything very well clearly spelled out, so the people in tech support, people in buyers, and people actually out there at the benches putting these kinds of things together are going to get the right parts and the right number of parts, and everything will be correct. And I just really strive for detail and accuracy. It's a big elusive goal. Also make storyboards up. So this is a playfield drawing directly out of the manual that they take and blow up to a playfield size, set it at one of the stations where they're adding all the Ethernet cables and all the little RGB LED cables, and these show exactly what plugs into where it runs through and which hole it goes through the playfield to go to something on the top side. Very handy things to have. And now we're actually getting a little more into the three-dimensional world. I'm taking models that we're doing from SolidWorks, and I'm able to use a SolidWorks product to take and allow touch screens to be set up on our assembly benches up at the factory, so that a person can walk up and just touch this part of the assembly here, and it'll bring up this drawing over here that are all the sub pieces of that piece. And then they touch any one of those pieces on the screen, and they'll automatically highlight which part they're touching on the screen, so that they can get the exact right parts. And then you can go back to this home page and you can go to exploded drawings of all sorts. It's pretty cool stuff. And then on top of that, we're able to do some three-dimensional things. So, you know, I can take one of our assemblies and do an animated screen like this that actually will take the thing apart, put it back together, stop at any point, and, you know, give them time to look at that. Again, I can put a bomb on there where they can highlight and stop and pause and just highlight one of these, and it'll come up, it'll do a little float over, show what the part number is and all the things that they're using there. So pretty cool stuff and really advanced. It's exciting to do. And it makes it a lot easier for people up at the factory to enter work, you know, and cross-train. And it's so boring to build, that Betty mech all day long, every day for a year and a half, or whatever. So move a person around from a bench to another bench, let them do something else. And when the new game comes in, all the benches change, and we'll be doing multiple games at once. So a lot of these things, hiring new people and training new people, these types of tools make that a lot easier. I also get to represent Jersey Jack Pinball at pinball shows and events. That's a great part of what I do. All expenses paid, trips to all the shows. Go to probably 10 to 12 of them a year. Jack does even more than that. God bless him. Technical and customer support. I'm working with our distributors and other people. I get text messages on Sunday morning. I've got a game. A customer's got a game that's got this problem. What do you think? Go back and forth. What's the part number for this? Who do I go to for that? Just trying to help parts and customer service. Sales and service, of course, I'm helping with them with the part numbers and descriptions and everything that's in the manuals, help them talk to a customer and figure out exactly which part they need without having to send them a whole assembly at once. I support engineering, purchasing, production. Basically, if it's pinball, I'm in. Count me in, and I do have the best job in the world. I thank Jack every time I see him, multiple times, for giving me the opportunity to do it. I know there were tons of people that were doing the same thing I was doing, trying to get in, work with the company. I don't know why he chose me. I just thank God that he did. I got to pinch myself every day. It's really great. It is the best job. So now I'm going to read a quick, this is a little, either a nod or a poke at our president. I'm not sure which. But I'm going to read Jack's little, whatever it is he wanted me to read here, his little wishes for you all, and wanted to talk and say a few things to you. So he says, I'm sorry that I'm not with you all this weekend. I'm blessed to have so many great friends and have built so many lifelong friendships because of pinball. I spent this past week with my 92-year-old dad, who has been in the hospital in Orlando, Florida. He's been living with one functioning kidney at 15% for the last 8 years. On Monday night, my sister, nephew, brother-in-law, and I said goodbye to him as he drifted off into a sleep caused by his kidney failure and his desire to not have a procedure to do dialysis. His 94-year-old brother died during dialysis at a VA hospital in Brooklyn a couple of years ago. It was very painful as we were helpless and we watched and accepted his wishes. This World War II veteran who was sent to Hiroshima after the bomb was dropped and beat 3 different cancers in the past 30 years was resigned to drift off into the night. The doctors all advised us that they would do the same for their father and that was what was best for him. On Tuesday morning, I went to the hospital early and peeked into his room, not knowing what I would find. I figured I had funeral arrangements to make this week. Instead, he was sitting up in his bed and eating his breakfast. He smiled and said good morning, and he was very alert. Our prayers were answered. And I told Jack exactly that. I said the power of prayer is just amazing. I took a picture, texted it to my sister, and then called her and put Dad on the phone. In a few minutes, his kidney doctor was at his bedside with tears in his eyes, saying that in his 25 years he had never seen this. He asked my dad again about dialysis, and my dad said yes, all capital letters, yes, I want to do dialysis. The doctor inserted a catheter, and a short time later they rolled a machine into his room and connected him up to it. For the next 3 days, he had 3 treatments, and every day he looked better and stronger. He lost over 15 pounds of fluid so far. Yesterday he was sitting up and standing, and he's feeling great. In fact, he posted on Facebook. I made a decision to spend another day with him rather than be with all of you. I love you all, but he is my only dad, and every moment with him may never happen again. So, we all can say he made the right choice. Jack and I go down a lot of the same path. I have a 90-year-old father also, and he's very active, and I'm glad to have him around. And, I really feel his pain too, and I know you all do too. Everybody has a dad, right? There's an old fable that I'd like to tell. One day, a farmer's donkey fell into a well. The animal cried for hours as the farmer tried to figure out what to do. Finally, he decided the animal was old and the well needed to be covered up anyway. It just wasn't worth it to try to retrieve the donkey. He invited all his neighbors to come over and help him. They all grabbed a shovel and began to shovel dirt into the well. At first, the donkey didn't realize what was happening and cried horribly. Then, to everyone's amazement, he quieted down. After many shovels later, the farmer finally looked down into the well. The farmer was astonished at what he saw. With every shovel of dirt that hit his back, the donkey was doing something amazing. He would shake it off and take a step up. As the farmer's neighbors continued to shovel dirt on top of the animal, he would shake it off and take a step up. Pretty soon, everyone was amazed as the donkey stepped up over the edge of the well and happily trotted off. Always remember that in life. Life is going to throw dirt on you. The trick to getting out of the well is to shake it off and take a step up. Each of our troubles is a stepping stone. We can get out of the deepest wells just by not stopping, never giving up, but taking a step up. In this world, people will always throw stones in your path of your success. It depends on you, what you make of them, a wall or a bridge. Never give up. You cannot lose if you don't give up. Have faith and have hope. Have a great show, and I'll see you all somewhere soon. God bless you all. Jack. He's here. Whether he's here or not, he's here. And of course, he's going to send us a lot of pictures and me some notes here, so I'm going to go through his photos that he would have shown you and talked about had he been here. And so just think of it as a taller version, probably better looking, younger, all that than Jack. So. I think make pinball great again. This is where it all started with the Wizard of Oz. This has always been Jack's favorite game. It's one we're going to build again later this year. We're still getting orders for Wizard of Oz daily, and even after selling over 3,000 of these. So that's exciting. The Hobbit was a different model, and we take pride in the fact that the games, you can set them next to one another, and one you can tell that they're related, but they're not exactly the same, So they're really cool. There are many models of Hobbit, and it's really good to see that we've got about 2,000 of those games out. It's always great to see several different models out in the factory. So we've got dialed ins, we've got Hobbits on the line, on the test line right next to one another. We're able to build on one side of our factory, what we call a boutique line. We're able to build off of the main line and still get a few games out a day, which is kind of cool. And allows us to build a couple at a time. Again, all the assemblies and everything are built on tables around the edges of the factory. It's really a great operation. So lots of games going out the door. The doors at the factory are open all the time. I mean, Jack will take anybody in. You're in the area, you want to come and have a tour of the area, of the factory, by all means, come on in. This is a group of local school children that he hosted at the factory. Brought them all in and showed them how things worked and how we built pinball machines. When people got together to play, all the boys kind of huddled around the Hobbit machine, while the girls around the Wizard of Oz machine. That's not very surprising to us. It's been that way. I've never, before Jersey Jack Pinball, I never heard anybody say, my wife said I've got to have that pinball machine, like I have heard with Wizard of Oz so many times. My wife wants it, and I'm the one trying to tell her, that we can't get it. It's crazy, it's completely backward. So the kids, are usually on their cell phones and get bored. Not on this day. They were very excited about seeing pinball machines. They had a ton of questions for Jack, and he signed things for all the kids, gave them little gifts to take home with them. And there he is, the biggest kid of them all. And when some of those middle school kids are towering over Jack, that just shows you. Sorry, Jack, I just can't read this. He took some games out to a local retirement village where active elderly adults were able to, test their reflexes and their skills at playing pinball, and it was a big hit for them. They very much appreciated that. Dialed in. This was our game right before the Pirates of the Caribbean. Had a huge launch party and tons of people when we launched this game at last expo before last, I guess. There's Steve Sabota, one of the local guys here, takes a lot of pictures too. Jack calls it, love at first sight, he calls this picture. So you can just see him playing the game with his eyes and watching it. Very, very cool. Pat Lawler, the designer of the game, happy at the release, and so is Jack. There's Jack with his boy and Pat when they got dialed in up on the main line at the factory. And there's Jack, making a good Facebook picture opportunity while he's double checking, looking over the manual that I just finished and sent him a printed copy. So he does that out in the snow to make pinball great again. Stars and Stripes socks, yeah, out there in the blustery snow. This is a launch party that they had down in Australia for the Pirates of the Caribbean. That's Jack and his son again, and another Jack, I guess. Our distributor there, Wayne, down in Australia. These are just some pictures from all over the world of people that Jack's been with at shows. He goes over there 2 or 3 weeks at a time and goes to these shows just one after another. This is another show. There's just one after another. This is actually Allentown at the beginning of the month. This guy works for Jack. Well, both of us do, I guess. But this guy, John here, works for Jack with Pinball Sales, and he won a second place in one of the tournaments up there. He's real proud of himself. Very cool. Krakow. I mean, he's Poland. He's in all these different places. Like I said, travels like crazy. Australia, Germany, Austria, Germany, France, and that's after Australia. This is our Luxembourg and French distributor, Christophe. This is Jack's dad playing the Hobbit at Ayub a couple years ago. It's our booth at Ayub. This is Jack with our new German distributor. Jack at the Louvre over there, and the Eiffel Tower, and the Arc de Triomphe. I mean, the guy, he loves France. So. And then he's standing at the airport waiting to catch his plane out of Charles de Gaulle Airport. And the guy comes walking up to him asking, "Are you Jersey Jack?" And guilty as charged, Sure enough, the guy just bought a Wizard of Oz 75th anniversary. There he is. Mr. Hogan, right?
Yes, sir.
Dave Hogan? All right.
Nobody else was in that airport but Jack and I.
And they had a great old time talking about his game and he's waiting for their plane. And and then Jack, let's get a picture. Yep, he's got a selfie, self-proclaimed selfie champ of the world. This is Jack when he was a bit younger. He working on what he called his social media back in those days, a ham radio. So he was doing that even when he was a kid. And CBs and working on electronics and fixing things when he was a very young age. And obviously was made for this kind of stuff. This is the first guy he actually worked for, a guy named Hein, and he hired him to be a pinball mechanic back, and this is in 1996 at the guy's 70th birthday party. He passed away a few months after that. Jack says he still practices the things that he taught me. There's Jack in what he calls one of his mother's favorite knitted sweaters. Who of us haven't had that little issue? But yeah, that's a nice sweater. This is Jack, let's see, back in 1977. Oh no, I'm sorry, 1978 at an AMOA show in Chicago with the elusive Bigfoot in the background there. You see it off to the side. And then this is in 2016 at Replay FX, and he says at least the machine still looks the same, the game still looks the same. And this is Disco Jack. This is 8 full months, according to the notes here, before John Travolta wore that outfit. So John Travolta copied Jack Guarnieri. How about that? Who knew? So, yeah, that's exact. And I think they used this for the Disco Fever back glass too, with the guy dancing. They actually have one of those at the factory with Jack's face put on the cardboard thing, and it sits over it's very funny. He says he still wishes he had this shirt these days. I'm glad he doesn't have that porno mustache anymore. Oh, there it's getting worse though, actually. Oh man, he says Roberts, who ran amusement places in Coney Island for over 50 years. This was at a show in 1990 at Ayub. This was a Jersey Shore show that we had up at the factory. This is out on the front lawn of the factory. Eric, the guy that designed Pirates of the Caribbean, is here. Jack here, his daughter, his son. That's me back in the back there. We had a big group of us come out that day and squint into the sun for the picture. This is a couple of guys. This guy's from down in Australia. This guy, I think, is a northeasterner somewhere up in New York, maybe something like that. His name here, Charles, I think, is his name. Yeah, Charles Thomas. And that's Dave from the factory, showing them around, showing some people how to work the tools that he uses. Dave's been there since like the very beginning. He's a great guy. Talk to him every time I get up there. He said brings people into the factory all the time, and no charitable cause is turned down. He does anything they can to support charity causes. Love doing it. Jack says family is most important, and here he is with his daughter and his son, Jim and Jack Jr. That's his father, Ayub, a couple years ago, Sal. Great guy too. There's his little granddaughter. I mean, kids are cute, but this little girl does not take a bad picture. If you've ever seen this stuff on Facebook, she is absolutely adorable. And she looks that way every single time. She does not take a bad picture. So cute. Jack says that starting a new business is probably not in his future again, but he's kind of eyed this coconut stand here on the way to a city in Hawaii on the side of the road. He said it'd be a lot easier to keep track of, a lot less things to worry about, than just selling coconuts. So you never know. All right, that's all of Jack's pictures. Now I'm gonna talk to you a little bit about the features of JJP's Pirates of the Caribbean. Some of them are hidden. I know you guys have played the game probably. Everybody's played it, right? For the most part. If you haven't, you ought to get out there. You haven't played it? Really? Seriously?
The line's too long.
Okay. Oh, the line's too long. I'm telling you, those are short lines compared to some of those that we've seen. It doesn't get any better. People think, well, I'll come afterwards. I'll come early. There's people at those games all the time. And it's been that way ever since Wizard of Oz, ever since the beginning. But you'll notice there's a lot of things on the game. Pirates of the Caribbean is approaching Wizard of Oz and how much stuff is in the game. I tell people that you'll never see a game like Wizard of Oz ever again that has that much stuff in it. It's so much stuff in the game that it almost put us out of business. I mean, it was just such a huge build material, so many things. There's no empty space under the play field. So it's a lot of fun. But Pirates of the Caribbean is getting close again because it's a wide body. It's got a lot of neat features, but a lot of them are hidden from you. You'll notice that when you shoot the ball, it goes back up into the corners. You don't know where exactly it's going, how it's doing, what's going on. So here's a little bit of look at what's underneath all that stuff. This is a drawing that I'm going to be using for the playfield illustrations in the manual. And what's up under there? Well, there's plenty up around under there. So if you go up on the left side over here, this is a turnaround, hidden turnaround that just is a loop back here. And as that ball comes up, if you hit it weak, it doesn't come up high enough to hit the switch. It has to make a full turn around this post right here and hit that switch in order to score. So you need to and it's a really smooth shot. It sends a spinner flying. It's an RGB LED spinner, so it spins around in different colors, and it's a real smooth shot. It comes right back down and feeds this flipper for shots on the right side of the playfield. There's hidden loops underneath there. This upper flipper here has a loop within the orbit loop that you can shoot. It's really cool. It's got places to drop into the subways with the upper flipper, with the hidden diverter here that can, on that shot, when it hits that switch, can close and drop the ball into the thing so it doesn't just come out of this loop. It's then kicked out and fit real nice to your left flipper out of this scoop on the left side. Hidden posts. There's a couple of posts that pop up out of the playfield. You notice when you shoot up into here, it's selecting your chapter that you're going to play from what's available. It puts a nylon post up through the playfield here, and then the ball bounces around with a hidden magnet underneath the playfield that's bouncing bouncing and sending it off all these targets, and that's randomizing, which chapter that it selects for you to play. And that's where that, I don't know, that sexta Brazilian number that they came up with, saying how many times you can not play the same game. It's like, that's what I've loved about pinball since I started playing the games like Firepower. You never play the same game twice at all. That's what pinball's great. You don't have to measure, figure out all these different paths and things like on a Pac-Man and memorize things like that, because you have to react constantly all the time. It's just a fight between you and gravity of that ball. Hidden forks. So there's a couple of forks that look kind of like a couple of Wolverine's claws, that pop up out of the playfield and then allow that ball to make a U-turn off of those forks and up into the treasure chest, which is up here. That's really distracting when my picture goes right around. Make it stop doing that, Mark. And so you got, let's see, thanks. I think he's doing it on purpose now. Shouldn't have told him it bugged me. So you got 4 pop bumpers in this game, all sprinkled along the edges here with a bunch of switches and things that are hidden in the rubbers, and a slingshot that's then integrated with these pop bumpers so that you kick the ball up in here, you can get all kinds of interesting action off of all this rubber, all these things, and then it can pop out at the top here, and it can drop out in a couple of different places at the bottom. There's actually a rollover button here that works with the pop bumpers feature that's kind of cool. And you've got an upper flipper here that's kind of hidden under that ramp, and then another place into the subway behind that upper flipper. I was telling somebody, I really like that shot because a lot of times in a game with an upper flipper, when you try to backhand a shot, your upper flipper blocks your shot. Well, in this game, when it blocks it, it actually drags it back into that hole, so you can backhand this shot when you need it for a super jackpot. By using the left flipper to let that ball catch. And more times than not, I don't think I've ever seen anybody open the left flipper and then shoot the ball in with the right. It's always a matter of the ball bouncing around here and you're flipping at it and the ball it gets grabbed by the upper flipper and pulled into that hole. And it's really cool. It disappears. It's like, where's it going to come out? And you get a nice feed over here. So take some of that random stuff that's bouncing around up here and giving you a chance to go down the middle and puts it back into a nice easy feed to your flipper. I'm really infatuated with all the transitions they have in the new PowerPoint. I'm like, man, there's some neat stuff here. I'm going to put a different one on every one of them. So bear with me. A few of the important shots. Now, when we start talking about that, we're going to need to see some of the artwork because, some of these inserts and people and, shots on this game are all characters. So it's kind of good as a reference point to put a little bit of a transparent artwork package on top of this. So this is what the playfield looks like with the new artwork around the center disc and all of the inserts and everything. Some of the things are a little bit different. Those games that you're playing at these shows are still prototypes. They've got prototype playfields, they've got prototype artwork, they've got prototype components in them. So some of the things are a little sluggish. Some of the things don't look exactly like they do in the final artwork here, but this is what's going to be produced and shipped. So skill shots. When you shoot the ball up the wire ramp here to begin with, if you shoot it really light, you can drop it into the pop bumpers, and there's a reason for that, which I'll go over in just a minute when I talk about the pop bumpers rule. But there is a desirable reason to drop the ball in short and let it hit into the pop bumpers. There's another skill shot where you send it up all the way around the top here and use the upper flipper to either send it around the loop several times or right into the map hole here. If you shoot it right into the map hole, that's a super skill shot. If you fire this thing around the loop, every time you go around the loop, you add a 1x to your bonus multiplier. So you're sending that around 3 times, and you got 3x and shoot it into there, you'll get the 3x. You have to not just shoot it around the loops, but you've got to hit the map hole to end it, to get the bonus multiplier out of it. Other things that go on with that, I'll talk about too, but that loop is kind of an integral part of the upper part of the playfield and how some of the rules work there. Let me back up one here, hold on. One more skill shot. There is a medium skill shot that you drop into this hole right here where you easily bounce and drop it into this hole. That feeds a vertical up kicker in this corner that pops the ball up onto the upper playfield here. And actually take one of the steps, which I'll go through in a little bit too, about how to get this Black Pearl, Curse of the Black Pearl multi-ball. It takes one of those steps and awards you, to the next level, so you don't have to complete one of those tasks up there on the upper playfield. So that's kind of nice to right off your ball, launch, be able to get up onto the upper playfield and get on that rocking playfield and start playing that. It's a lot of fun. So the gold targets are these 4 targets right here that are basically right next to the ramp that goes up to the upper playfield, that mini playfield access ramp. Right underneath this edge here are 4 targets, G-O-L-D. If you launch the ball at any point, the ball comes and feeds this flipper off a ball served, when you start a ball or any time during the game, you can send it around this loop multiple times and it'll build up gold multipliers also. And then the last shot, if you hit it into these gold, it's going to throw a bunch of gold pieces up onto the LCD screen. Some of them will be 10 pieces, some will be single pieces, and they're just kind of sprinkled all over and what you've got to do is you let a finger off of your either flipper and get to the action button and slap it and pick up. Everyone you slap that button will pick up a piece of gold. And you want to do that because you collect 50 pieces of gold, you can get to Tortuga multi-ball, and it's the only way to get to that multi-ball is by collecting gold. So if you could send this around here, even on, like I said, on ball launch or any time during the game and do a couple of loops here and then hit these targets here, be prepared for a gold, and slap the bar as fast as you can. You'll hear the voice and you just try and smack it. What'll happen, there's a couple of flashers that are on the playfield roughly here and here, and those are going to light up in a gold and white sparkly color whenever there's gold on the screen. So you get the guy telling you in a voice, you get the visual of the bright yellow and white lights, and then as they turn to red, that means that the gold's getting ready to go away. You see it on the screen also, the gold pieces will turn to red, and then they'll just disappear if you don't collect them. So you've got to get down to the action button down here on the lockdown bar and slap, and you'll hear it when you get to the end and you don't have any more gold. So you get you've collected all of it and you can be still watching the ball. And of course, if you're like me, you let go right when the ball comes down on that left flipper and you lose the ball and you're like, God, there is a gold, people want that gold so bad. So yeah, the inner loop shots multiply that and give you more gold pieces. And then of course, if you get to 50 pieces of gold, and that's kept in the lower right-hand corner of the LCD screen, it keeps your count of your gold pieces. When you get up to 50 pieces of gold, then you shoot the ball, this will light for Tortuga multi-ball, and you shoot the ball into this scoop right here and begin a 3-ball multi-ball, Tortuga multi-ball, so it's a lot of fun to play too. Chapter qualification shots are basically you're shooting any of the main shots on the playfield here, and it'll go from movie to movie, and each time you make one of these shots, it'll bring another chapter that's now qualified, and that's in the list up there underneath the 4 or 5 different movie headings. And there's little skull and crossbones and little squares underneath there, and it's going to bring up and highlight number and put a color on top of some of those squares and show that some of those chapters are now available to play. And then when you shoot the ball up in here to play your chapter, when you shoot the ball up in, you've got some chapters that are qualified and bouncing around in here. It's going to bounce between all of those lit up squares and then pick one, and then that's the movie you're going to play, and a big cannonball will fire out of the LCD to show you which movie you're going to play a chapter from. And they're not modes, they're chapters. I've been told that multiple times. It's not involved enough to be called a mode, so it's really just a chapter, so don't call it a mode. Pop bumpers. So, like I said earlier, you can drop the ball into the pop bumpers off of the ball launch and get awarded something. There's a mystery level involved with the pop bumpers and the sling. So we're counting the sling as a 5th pop bumper. So the ball bounces around up in here. You see a triangle insert next to each one of these pop bumpers and the sling. There's one there, and there's the 4 up here, or these 4 in the center. They're going to change color depending upon how many times they've been hit. And what you're trying to do is get them all up to a certain colored level. So there's 10 different levels, and when you hit each one of them once, you'll be a level 1. But hitting this one down here, bless you, is kind of hard to do. So you tend to hit the ball up in here, and it bounces multiple times, and they'll go up to yellow and green and red and all these different colors. And what you're trying to do is build each one of those up to a certain level, and then you can it'll light a mystery award into this hole here, and you can shoot into there. And the higher you get that mystery level before you collect it, the more cool the mystery awards are. Whereas, it's like Terminator 2 where you get big points, and it's really not big points. It's the same sort of thing down here. When you're at the low end of those levels, you're going to get small rewards. When you get up there, it might be light extra ball or something like that when you get up into the upper levels. So if you happen to drop a ball into here on your skill shot, it automatically raises the entire level of your pop bumpers up one level. If you roll the ball over this rollover, at some point the ball goes either through here by a pop bumper way or you drop it in there by a weak shot on that upper flipper or something. That one actually takes the lowest of these 5 and raises it up one level. And so if this one's kind of lagging behind and these are moving up, multiple hits through here and hitting that rollover will bring this pop bumper up to the same levels as the other and light your mystery. And whichever mystery level you're at will be the color of the insert here. The RGB LED behind it will be the red, green, or blue, or yellow, those sorts of things. So, kind of a cool rule. Pirates in lanes. So you've got Pirate. So you've got pirate down here. You're going to use your flippers to lane change. You got a lot of long returns to some of these lanes, so off of the ramps and things, where you have plenty of time to make sure you let it go through one that's not lit. So you're trying to spell pirate, get all those lit up, and as you move with your left and right flipper, it's going to move the unlit ones around so that you can try and get them to drop in and finish spelling pirate. Your LCD at the bottom of the apron here, on the bottom arch, is going to have displayed what your pirate award will be. If you spell pirate, hit all these, spell it, this pirate light up here, this target, this single target will light up. And whatever is on the screen right now, if you hit that lit target, it will be awarded. And so while you're in dead time and you got nothing else to do during a ball, right, because we're all just so bored, right? You can go down here and use the action button when there's no gold on the screen, and you can change what that award's going to be, and you can pick what you want it to be. So it's kind of cool to tune that. And of course, if you've got it on this, some kind of award, and you spell pirate again without collecting it, you blow that award out of the possibility, so it takes it away. You can't ever do that anymore. So you're going to make sure you collect it before you spell it again. Escape the locker ball save. I don't know if some of you have seen, or sometimes you don't even notice, but the ball will roll sometimes down this flipper and come around here so fast, or even out this out lane, and come all the way around the bottom and back out into your shooter lane again. There is an opening right here. It's got posts around it, but this one has no rubber on it, so it takes a pretty good shove at the right time to get metal on metal to make it bounce in that direction. So, you have your own game, and you've bought it. You can put a rubber on there, make it a little easier for yourself. Take the rubber off of this one, whatever you want to do, but it's there. It's kind of a cool little ball save. I gotta take a deep breath here. Maybe get a little water too. When you start talking about the multi-balls, this gets really crazy. These guys are like mad scientists in their lab over there. He got worn out his arms here. He's got to have relief. Okay. Shake it out, shake it out. Breathe a little bit. There you go. That's good, that's good. Okay. So, the 5 multi-balls in the movies are down here at the bottom. And then the little dashes above them are for the wizard modes, and that's completing them and getting to just bizarre things. I'm not going to get into wizard modes today because we only have a couple hours to talk here. So anyway, the Curse of the Black Pearl has to do with the upper play field. So I'm going to get the ball either up by shooting this ramp up onto that upper play field, which is kind of a U-turn thing, and it comes back down and feeds a flipper over here. But just be able to show the play field itself. I kept the ramps off, but you can shoot the ball up the ramp. You can launch the ball into the drop into here and vertical up kick up onto the upper play field. You can shoot a weak shot sometimes around here that rattles around and falls in. There are shots where the magnet here can grab the ball and drop it into there and put you up onto that upper play field. But you'll see the flasher and that, the RGB LEDs in that corner will be flashing to let you know the ball's going to pop up onto the upper play field. What you want to do when you get it up there, while this is rocking back and forth and the ball's bouncing all over the place, is you're going to shoot through these, either way, through these spinners. There's 2 RGB LED spinners right here, off those spinners, so they're really quick, and you can send them spinning and they'll just change color and all. When they get green, that means you've completed, you've hit them enough times. That's the first step completed. Second step is there are 2 targets on the edge over here, the light or load cannon targets. There are 2 in the middle here for spot gold too, which have something to do with, you know, how many gold pieces you get the next time you hit the gold targets and things like that. But what you're trying to shoot for are the ones at the extreme edges here that you're going to have to hit off the ends of the flipper while the thing's rocking. And so they'll be blinking green, and you hit either one of those. It used to be back in when we first announced the game and showed it in Expo, you had to hit both of them to get them going. So it was really hard to load the cannon. We were noticing, you know, people aren't getting to shoot the cannon, so you can make it a little easier. So hit one of those 2, and they'll go solid green, and then the light here, the arrow, will start blinking green, and that's telling you to drop the ball in. There's a lock mechanism here that opens a gate to where earlier, before it's unlocked, you're just going to be hitting on a metal lip there, and you can't get the ball in. So once it's lit for a ball to be loaded into the cannon, that gate will lift up slightly and it'll allow the ball underneath. Shoot the ball into there, the playfield's going to continue to rock, but now you're looking, the cannon sticks out the side over here, and you've got a big ship on this side of the playfield that has a hole in it about so big, and you're going to shoot across there while the playfield's going up and down, trying to shoot the ball. Time it with the action button to shoot the ball through that hole. Do that, and you'll start Curse of the Black Pearl multi-ball. Now while you're playing 3 balls and they're bouncing all around, you're going to shoot them back up onto the playfield, and you're going to load the cannon again, and you're going to shoot across here, hit the ship for a jackpot, hit the hole, go through again for a super jackpot. All that while keeping 3 balls in play, or at least 2, so it's still multi-ball, right? Yeah, okay, that sounds like the kind of stuff I'll do with a glass off, but that's all right. Second, Dead Man's Chest. The second multi-ball, second movie. You're going to hit the load chest. I think it used to say open chest, but now that the chest is open all the time, I think it's load chest. So you're going to hit these 2 targets, kind of like the light block in Whitewater, where you're going to hit on either side and then shoot between them. That's what you're going to be doing here. You're going to hit either side and then shoot between, because once you get those 2 lit, it's going to bring the forks up, and you're going to be able to shoot the ball, make that U-turn, and it'll drop into the chest up there. It's a physical lock, so it'll actually hold the ball. If for some reason the forks are not working properly, the ball shot through this loop here will give you a virtual lock, and it will know that you did get a ball in there, and you'll get credit for it. So you need to do that 3 times. Basically, light lock, shoot it in, load chest, shoot it in, load chest, shoot it in. The 3rd time it goes in, we'll start 3-ball multi-ball. Now when this multi-ball starts, you're going to get these targets here that have 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6X on them. That's this target, this one, this one, this one, and this one. And I think some of the easier ones are the 2 and the 3, but the 6 and the 5 are the more difficult off the end of the flipper kind of shots. You hit one of those first off when you start the multi-ball, and that will determine how many multi-ball jackpots you'll have on your playfield at the time. So if you hit 5X, there'll be 5 of these big arrow shots here lit for multi-ball. If you hit 6, there'll be 6. If you hit 2, there'll be 2. And then you can make those shots to get your jackpots. And let's see, and then the super jackpot, after you clear however many you lit, so if you got 3 and you got 3 jackpot shots, you make all 3 jackpot shots, it'll light the chest here, that shot in the center again, to make a super jackpot up into the chest, all while keeping at least 2 balls in play. Right? You might want to pull one off the playfield, put it in your pocket real quick. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, it gets crazy. At World's End, now you got a multi-ball that's involved with this shot. And you'll notice these colors, they're a little washed out here because of the transparency. But the colors here will let you know what shots you're needing to make. So they're all over the playfield. The shot here has that same color for the black pearls to go up in there. This shot here will have a little skull and crossbones on it that matches that color. I'm sorry, this one here matches that color. The 3rd one will have this one that matches, and then there's a 4th one into the center here. Most of these big ones anyway, have a skull and crossbones component with them also that will light up for that multi-ball shot. At World's End you've got 9 pieces of 8 all over the playfield. That even sounds funny to say. 9 pieces of 8. So every one of these big 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. All those big arrow inserts will have a little graphic on top of them, and there's some kind of a piece of bait, so like the beads, and you'll hear the guy, when you make one of the shots, the guy doing the narration will say, like, for instance, on this one here, you shoot up and it says, the beads, ahar, you know, and so that's, the beads will come on your LCD, will light up, and it'll show that you've collected one of those pieces of bait. When you've collected all 9, then you shoot the maelstrom ramp, which is the big funnel ramp here, for start that multi-ball. So this color and that color are the same. That's that multi-ball shot for, once you get the multi-ball started, what'll happen that there's a diverter on that ramp. It'll kick the ball in and make it go down inside the funnel, and it'll come up over here as the multi-ball sequence starts up and it plays on the LCD. During multi-ball now, hit the maelstrom ramp for a jackpot shot. If you make that ramp, it'll light this Tiadama shot, which is this character right here under this upper flipper, for a super jackpot shot. So that's the backhand, and let the thing, you know, grab it and pull in for your super jackpot shot. If next up is on Stranger Tides, that's this loop up in here. So now you're going to use the upper flipper. You need to make this loop 5 times, but not 5 times in a row. 5 times separated by a little bit of time in between. So if you shoot this 5 times in a row and then it falls out, you've made it once towards the multi-ball. Shoot it again once around here, you've made it twice towards the multi-ball. You need to do that 5 times, and then you'll make this shot one more time, and it'll start the multi-ball. This is a 2-ball multi-ball. Everybody else was a 3-ball multi-ball. This is a 2-ball multi-ball for this particular loop here. And this one gets really crazy, because now you have 2 balls, and they think you can do a lot more things with that. You're not so distracted having to keep track of that 3rd ball. So what they'll do here is a shot around this loop inside during multi-ball will be a jackpot shot. If you can make combo shots now and shoot a combo shot up through, wow, that's crazy. Is that me? It's almost 100%. Yeah. I don't know. I think it's something else. You can make a shot during multi-ball up through the pop bumpers and come all the way around this loop, and then make that loop shot again as a combo shot. That's a 2x jackpot, right? If you can make this shot around, oh, I'm sorry, 2x jackpot is through this loop here, this little loop right here, I'm sorry. So shoot it up through the underneath the chest. The forks will be down, so the ball will just come down here, feed this, make that. That's a 2x jackpot. 1x jackpot for doing it first. 2x jackpot for doing a combo here. 3rd one will come around using this lower flipper up between the pop bumpers all the way around and make that loop again. That's a triple jackpot. Once you've made the triple jackpot, it's going to pop this nylon post up right here, and the next time you shoot that loop, it's going to catch the ball there and act like a Newton ball. So your 2nd ball, then you have to fire into that, hit the post. It'll Newton ball the one that's trapped around, and you'll get a super jackpot. Okay? And then, was that all this? Did I get all of it? All right, Dead Men Tell No Tales. There's another one yet. Dead Men Tell No Tales. Let's see, that one is, that's the one up here on the side. Okay, so I'm going to shoot through the spinner, and I think it's like 75 times you have to send the spinner around. So the more you can send it up there fast and send the spinner to really spin it and make that loop shot, the better. So it'll fire up through here, it'll loop around. So the ball come up into that loop and send the spinner around. When you've made enough spinner shots, this will light up for the multi-ball shot. And you need to make a full shot all the way around here. This diverter will kick the ball into the subway, and it'll pop out here and it'll start the multi-ball for you. During the multi-ball, it's going to have a roving jackpot shot moving around to all these different arrows. Hit it while it's lit, and it'll light the Devil's Triangle shot here for the super jackpot shot. I mean, you know how long I've been studying for that? It's like a midterm exam or something. Okay, so here's the final artwork from the playfield. And I'll just kind of move up and down the playfield. And there's a lot of detail in this. I know that the people have claimed that looked really fuzzy. It was just a matter of a bad photo being taken off of a video stream, being copied, being faxed, and being sent to somebody else. And they're compressing it and all. There is a lot of detail in that. And I'll show that with a really close-in shot of that. There's a lot of stuff right around that spinning disc. So there'll be a single spinning disc inside of there. And that was really satisfying to cut John's face in half. I really enjoyed that. So yeah, a lot of different things on the play field that's been tweaked. Some interesting fun facts. That's really Kevin McNally, the guy that played Joshua Gibbs, the first mate. That's his voice. We had a couple of recording sessions with him and had him do some really cool pinball call-outs. That's always fun because you get them to say exactly what you want them to say, rather than trying to take bits of audio out of the movie. Some features you don't see very often in a pinball machine. An uphill subway shot and a rubber band, a rubber stand-up extra ball shot, and tilt warning lights. I think I put a thing in here so I can show you that. So when the ball drops into this hole here through whatever means, either wow, that's really fun. Okay, ball drops into here, it actually goes uphill to this vertical up kicker. Most every subway you'll see in a pinball machine, any hole in the play field, as it goes down, drops into the subway, it goes downhill from that to some other point and launches back out again. This one actually has got a reverse tilt to it, so that it goes backwards to this upper corner, which is uphill, and then kicks it into the vertical up kicker, which puts it up onto this play field. The tilt warning lights are down here on the bottom, so you've got, this is how many you have remaining, so you'll start a ball with 2 red lights on there. If you happen to tilt once and you need to know how many tilts you got left, or you tilted, you don't know if it was once or twice, you can look down here and see how many are remaining. Both those lights out, you better be very careful from then on out, or you're going to lose all your bonus. Or you can get a bonus thing. One of the things we do in Jersey Jack Pinballs is give you some of these mystery scores, you get an extra tilt warning, so that's kind of cool too. And then of course the extra ball shot goes right between pop bumpers here, and it's actually this switch here that's embedded in this rubber. It's just a 10-point switch that actually is your extra ball shot once it's lit. So that's kind of cool too. Usually you have to kick that into a saucer or make some complicated shot that's really difficult. This one's requiring you to hit this rubber right here through any means. So you get the ball up in there, you can nudge it around with your pop bumpers and try and get it to make that switch, which is kind of cool. Y'all, early design features and changes. The chapter select. We had, originally Eric's design was kind of cool. He had actually had a magnet right here instead of an up post, and that the magnet would grab the ball in play, and there was a captive ball above it that it would then use another magnet to bounce around and all that, but it was going to hold your ball with a magnet here to begin with, and that was kind of a little bit of overkill for him. And heating up a magnet, holding the balls, a lot of things moving around. So it came up with the up post and then using the ball in play to do that. You don't have to hold on to it if you're using it. He also had drop targets in front of that to begin with, to be able to get to the lock over here. To get the ball to lock, you had a 3-bank drop target. You had to knock drop targets down. So point being there that these games change during development, and we basically kind of showed you the game while it was in late development, but some changes were still made after the fact, as everybody knows. And a lot of changes occur on games that you may never see. It's not an uncommon thing to take some stuff out of the pinball or make it a little bit different. So the target ship and the cannon load, when we first introduced that on the Expo game, was just crazy difficult to get with all the the way the gate worked and everything. It was a flying backhand shot with the left flipper while you're rocking to make it. It was really difficult to do. I did it once. I made it through the hole in the ship. Actually used to have a spring-loaded door on it, so it would have to be hit it hard enough to go through a spring-loaded door and get inside. And I did it once, and I was like, yeah, we were testing games, getting ready to take it. So I felt good about myself. Rum bottles. This is kind of a funny, the spinning pop bumpers things. The first one's iteration of those, the one, got the big guy there that's in the foreground, but there's one up under the ramp, a spinning pop bumper for the LE games that spin around. We had rum bottles and steins and things like that. And when we sent that to Disney, they said, oh no, we can't have any rum, we can't have any drinking, we don't want that on our Pirates game. And we're like, have you ever ridden in Pirates of the Caribbean, right? Have you seen all the alcohol involved in that? They didn't want to do that, but they were absolutely fine with guns and knives and, you know, that sort of stuff. Just funny things, you know, when you get with these people that are in charge of doing this stuff, they can have some really crazy hang-ups for you. This is Eric Guarnieri, the guy that designed the game. I saw that he was sitting there talking at the Texas show, and he was talking with Dave Field, who was sitting over here on the side, and I saw these pinballs on the, you know, just like coming up out of his brain, and I'm like, hey, pose for me for just a second. You're thinking about pinballs, you know, this is your motivation. Ready? Go. And so I thought that was pretty cool. And his name is Munier. He Americanized it, calls it Minier, because people like Jack, when they pronounce it, say manure. And that doesn't sound good. And I basically used manure. I wanted to see how that's signed. What is manure? I had to put that in there, I'm sorry. And with that, yeah, we have any questions? And then again, wait for your...
Once you could have maybe 10, 15 minutes for questions.
Okay, we've got that many. Anybody want to ask a question, raise your hand and he'll bring the mic over to you. And we got signing in stereo now over here. This is going to be good.
Questions?
Yep. So if I put a deposit down next week, how long is it going to take for these games to start shipping? And where would I be in that line? Because I played it a couple of times. It's awesome.
Yeah, it's a great game. I haven't heard since, you know, like Wizard of Oz with our games that people walk up to it and say, you know, I got to have that game. I got to have that game. I got to have that game. It's pretty amazing. We are ordering parts right now. The parts are coming in. We're targeting July for games rolling off the line, being produced. That's counting on a lot of things going absolutely right, which, you know, things rarely go absolutely right, but, you know, we're getting our first parts in from some vendors, you know, there's a process of going through that, making sure that they're being made to spec and the specs themselves are correct. Sometimes that's a little bit off, and you do some fine-tuning, you have a few iterations sometimes. So you've got to have all the parts to build the game, and when those get in, you know, we're going to ship them just as quick as we can. It's job one right now to change the line over from dialed in to Pirates to train people how to build all the parts, the assemblies and things like that. So late summer, you know, July is what we're shooting for. And in terms of where you'd be in a line, you know, once these start coming off the line, they'll be coming off in pretty good numbers pretty quick. It's going to be a game that it's going to be a complex one to build, obviously. Like I said, it's got a lot of stuff in it, but we'll catch up with the pre-orders, I think, pretty quick once it gets going. So, you know, I would think you could have one before the, you know, Christmas, Thanksgiving, that kind of time frame. We should be catching up. Did that answer your question?
Yeah, I did. Thank you.
Uh-oh. That guy's a troublemaker. I'm just going to say it before it gets started.
Yeah, known repeat offender in the trouble department. So I asked this question at Expo a couple years ago. Is there going to be one page for every pound in this game in the manual?
The manual, yeah. You know, I use the analogy of the manual being a lot like the software, in that you think it's done and then you see something that you could make a little clearer, you could do a little better, you forgot altogether, you know, that you meant to do. And so, you know, that's why the manuals get updated like they do. So we're going to, you know, I'm trying to get a printed manual out with our games when they ship. But, you know, when you do that up front, that just means there's going to be multiple printings of it, and the later ones are going to be more accurate, more complete than the early printings. And that's why the digital one works really well. You know, the latest one on the website, it's hyperlinked. You know, I've manually put in like 1,500 hyperlinks in each of those manuals. So, you know, you hover around on some of those schematics and things, and you hover over a connector, and it turns to a finger. You know, you can click on that connector, and it'll take you to like the coil or switch matrix or whatever that connector supports, and show you, you know, where all the wiring goes, and you go back and forth between those. So I'm finding better ways to do it. I'm like the software guys. When I find a new way way to show something better, and it's something that's been in all of our games. I like to try and go back and update the other manuals also. And so at least the digital one, you know, has the latest stuff in it. So they do the same thing with the features in the game, you know, the balls in reserve and stuff like that. When you play an extra ball in a normal game, you earn an extra ball, you play it right afterwards. Well, in our games, you can put it on balls in reserve, and it'll put your extra ball at the end of the game, so that as soon as you're done with your ball, then the other player plays again. He doesn't have to sit and wait through a couple of extra balls. They'll all be at the end. The other player's out of balls, and he's got nothing else to do. Bless him.
If there's, one more question.
Is there a digital version of the manual built into the game's own
Yes.
software?
Yes.
So I can page through it?
You can page through it, you can zoom, and but you're basically holding one of the forward plus or minus back,
To get
forward,
to the
back.
page I want.
Yeah, and it just, the longer you hold it, the faster it'll page through. And
I like that.
Yeah. You have no
sometimes-
mouse, so there's no way to hyperlink. And
Yeah, I know,
and
but
stuff.
you're working on a game sometimes, it's just, if the game doesn't have a printed manual, if one's not available, and then I have no Wi-Fi or something,
Yeah.
I can't get to the one online, and it's nice to, okay, at least as long as the computer's running, I can get to
And
the
Pirates, and your screen works, yeah. And,
Yeah.
And that's usually the case. I mean, those are not really high failure things, but the Pirates of the Caribbean game is like dialed in. It's a wide body game, but it's not like Hobbit and Wizard of Oz. It's got all the boards up in the back box. It's got the swivel and pivot monitor, so you can swing that out to one side. So even when you have your play field up, you could be looking at that manual off to the side. It works really well.
Butch, is this a good time that maybe we could start the fireside chat?
I guess so.
Okay, Martin from
Martin,
Pinball News.
Martin's promised to ask questions that are really, right, Martin?
What is the meaning of life?
Yeah.
Oh, thanks very much.
Why are we here? Yeah.
Hi everyone, my name is Martin Ebb, I'm the editor of Pinball News. This is also a chance for you to throw in more questions as well. It's not just me asking questions, so if anything that Butch says piques your interest and you think, oh, could you just expand on that, stick your hand up, we'll get a mic to you, and we can talk a little more about anything. We've got about 20 minutes, so we can do this. So, you said at the start that you were in the Department of Defence before you joined JGP.
Yes.
So one would imagine that the army is a very organised, rigid structure,
Yeah.
and from that you come to this pinball start-up, as it was back then, and I guess the role that you had then was less well-defined. Is that fair? Or up to you to define your own role?
That was kind of cool about my job with the Army is that, you know, we were working in electronic warfare stuff, so we were doing jamming and things like that. And when I came to pinball, these guys were all stressed out about whether a pinball machine was going to ship or not, or, you know, in this case, how many rings it has. And when you're talking about building something and getting it out to the troops and saving lives, I mean, it puts everything in perspective. I'm like, you guys are worried about a pinball machine? No one's going to die if this doesn't come out next week, you know? So, you know, it puts things in perspective, but it also allowed, you know, my job was very flexible with the Army, and I could work on anything I wanted to work on. And you went to areas that naturally were going in an area where you knew or had experience. So, you know, the jamming and stuff like that was really interesting stuff. Working directly with troops and supporting your country, you know, it's a big deal.
Absolutely. Now you were, well, I remember there was something you just mentioned about the manual, which wasn't what I was going to ask you next, but it just came up. You said that the game doesn't have a mouse. Could the game have a mouse? Would that be something that would aid fault finding if you were able to page through, scroll up? And it's a PC in there after all, so it's got USB ports.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, it's not impossible for sure. That's how the developer guys worked on the game. They'll get a keyboard and a mouse and a USB stick that they plug into the extension cable and work with it from there. So, but we're trying to stay with what people are more comfortable with and still allow you to work with that 3 buttons on the coin door, kind of 4 buttons that we've had forever. You know, that familiarity thing. And if you're going to go to a 7-Eleven to work on your game, oh, I forgot my keyboard and mouse. That's not cool. You know, so you should be able to still do a bunch of things with those 4 buttons.
Whether the games would come with the mouse in the cabinet.
Could put a trackball underneath it,
Yeah.
tickle it, that could be all good.
You mentioned that on your time scale, you were saying about you're still waiting for parts to come in, and how's your experience been of ordering parts for new games? Is it often the case that parts take a lot longer to arrive, or when they turn up they're not exactly what you're expecting, or they have some kind of defect to them that have to be sent back? This is something which has affected other manufacturers, or ex-manufacturers in some cases, that they give you a shipping time when they think the game's going to be ready based on the arrival of all the parts. And of course,
What else
when
can you use?
a playfield turns up and it's it's defective, and you have to wait another 2 weeks for the new playfields to arrive. Is that something which you've experienced, or has manufacturing really been absolutely smooth as silk?
They're going to make it as smooth as they can, obviously, but we get vendors, we weed through them, we work with the good ones that want to work with you, and you get people that you trust, and when you trust them more and they've delivered and they've shown it in history, a good history of being on time and doing what they say, and they're a really good vendor, and you want to keep those guys. And you're gonna also look at to try and reduce prices. You're gonna get other people involved. You're gonna send out quotes and get information from other companies that have never made these kind of things before in some cases. And sometimes you find out that you thought you drew it and inspect everything that you needed exactly, and you missed a measurement somewhere, or a radius was incorrect, slightly just off. But when you make your prototype parts, or your very early pre-production type parts, they'll make them a little bit differently than they go when they make them 1,000 at a time. They set it up differently. They make them by hand. They bend things. They do things that they're going to automate when they do a large order later on down the road. So you'll get parts in that work great, and you think, man, this guy's got it going on. When he says he'll have them for me, and then he changes the way he makes that just a little bit, then it introduces a problem with the part. And the only way you find that is when you hook it to these other 4 parts and hook it into the game, and it doesn't quite work right.
And then the solution is to go back to them, or do you try and modify the game to work with it?
Yes. You're going to modify the part sometimes. I mean, there's what they call it up in the factory is rework. When they get a part in that maybe this needs a 65-degree bend in it, it's got a 72 or something the way it came from the manufacturer, they'll make a rig up, because they're going to do this multiple times, and they'll take that, put it in the rig and bend it to that perfect angle, and then put it in the game. And then they know that to get back to the guys in engineering, tell them fix that angle on the drawing so they come in correctly. Get back to the buyers and say make sure you're on these guys. Get back to the inspectors and tell them make sure when those come in you measure that angle and it's exactly right, so that you close that loop and they stop having to rework at some point. That's the best point.
So do you have a sort of incoming parts inspection area where everything that comes in has to be checked against the spec?
First thing they come into is an inspector at the factory, and that guy goes through the drawing and measures things with micrometers and measures angles and makes sure the part's the right length and height and width and the angles are all correct. And then he'll do that. He'll take a sample. You're not going to test. If you get 750 of this metal part, you're not going to do that 750 times. You're going to take a couple out of there, a sampling of them, but you'll get a good idea, because they all came off the same machine. They were all made the same way.
And have you ever known or heard of any parts manufacturers who have been told, if you make parts for JJP, you won't make parts for us?
That stuff happens, unfortunately. There's some strong arming that goes on. It's not fair, it's not fun to deal with, and putting the vendor in a bad position like that too. They're just trying to make a living. They're just trying to work for a couple of different companies, and you can't have one company telling the others. We certainly don't do it. If you don't work with another company, you won't be making parts for us anymore. But it has happened, especially early on in this company. We had that. So you're forced into newer areas, other vendors that aren't as well versed at doing these sorts of things. And then you go down those other paths of the iterations and trying to get it right.
Well, exactly on that point, to what extent do you try to keep the same parts from model to model? The design of them, or are you always looking to try and improve them? If you've got a slingshot in the Hobbit, but you want to use it and dialed in, are the changes you can made to the dialed-in slingshot, so it works better than the ones in the Hobbit, but then you have two slingshot parts.
Interestingly enough, are kind of tricky. They're like that. They had, in the old days, they had several different lengths of plungers for slingshots, and it depended upon how big the triangle was that the slingshot was, and how the switches were set apart and everything, so that it gave the proper amount of kick outward when the switch is activated. So you adjust the plunger length, it pulls the plunger in further and kicks the kicker either out less or more based on the length of that. And that's just that piece right there that you're changing. So you may have to stock 3 different lengths of plungers, but then you put them together with the link and all, and they all go into the same mechanism very similarly. But Eric went up to the factory to look in our stock room, and some of the things that we had obsoleted or made not used anymore in games, some of that stuff could still be used. And he went through and looked at specifically a part, that we had a surplus of and things. And when he was thinking, I want to use a vertical up kicker in there, he used a vertical up kicker from the same one that we used in Hobbit. And then the other one that's in the game is the same one we use in WAS. So that's really helpful. But there are some times when you just can't use the old parts, and you end up with a whole tray, a whole long line on the shelf of different vertical up kickers, plunger links, all those kind of things.
And for various reasons, I would suggest that maybe dialed in was quite a game changer in that way, in that quite a lot of things were different in the way that game was built, including the cabinet.
Yes.
Can you give me some details of what changed in dialed in and from that point forward?
Well, first and foremost, the cabinet changed completely. The coin door was where the headphone jack resided before. Now it's in the bottom part of the cabinet. It's got a little different board in there. The soundboards, we're making our own soundboards now. So some of the guts have changed up in the top. Different speakers. David Thiel was involved with getting our cabinet back box set up to where the speakers were mounted properly, trying to get them just as far apart as you can, so you make the cabinet as wide as you possibly can, and all these considerations. But that is the cabinet moving forward. So Pirates of the Caribbean again does not look like Wizard of Oz, does not look like Hobbit in terms of what cabinet it sits in, even though they're all wide bodies. It's going to be it looks like a dialed-in cabinet made wider. So,
right, that's something which you're going to be using for future games.
Boards in the
as far
back
as you
box,
know.
pivot and swivel, monitor hand that comes out, speaker back bar up there being made of wood with the speaker grills and things like it is there. A lot of the tubes under the playfield are going to become our standard from now on. So the support tubes that you can lift the playfield up with and all. You'll be able to do that with Pirates of the Caribbean. It's another heavy plate.
Yeah, the games are heavy.
You know where your money goes at least, don't you?
Yeah. So a couple of things that you mentioned there were about David Thiel being involved and about Eric coming down to the factory. I mean, how is it working in a distributed workforce where you have an office up in Illinois, you have David doing his sound in Seattle, and the main office down, and the factory
Down
all
over in
down in New Jersey.
Yeah.
Well, JP.
Yeah, we've got people all over the place. I'm in New Mexico. I get that all the time. So you work in Chicago or New Jersey? What C in that question? None of the above. So, interestingly enough, I could draw a parallel to that with my previous job too. When I worked for the Army, I worked at White Sands Missile Range, but we weren't actually headquartered at White Sands Missile Range, which means our bosses weren't there. Our bosses were in Aberdeen, Maryland. So we had a lot of that East Coast, West thing going there too. And so when I came to JJP and the engineers were over here and the factories over there, I really understood and saw how that happens, that us versus them mentality, the not being able to work, that challenge, that geographically, not being co-located causes people having to work more on the phone, people have to work much closer. I mean, the guys that say like Stern, they got their engineers right upstairs. When they have a problem on the line, if something's not going together right, hey, engineer, come here and check this out and show us how to fix this. We have to do that via email and Skypes and things like conference calls. So it is more of a challenge. But yeah, there is a good rapport back and forth. We work on processes and making sure things are documented properly and that they go through, dot all the I's, cross all the T's, and watch your P's and Q's, and you're sending things back and forth that have to be correct electronically, and tracking changes that ECRs, we call them ECNs, engineering change requests, engineering change notices. From the engineering side, when they say, we've found a problem with something, we've heard you're having a problem, we're changing something to make it better, they send a notice to production saying, make this change as quick as possible. Yes, you can use existing parts until they're exhausted. No, make this change right away. You can't even use scrap existing parts, that kind of stuff. And then a request comes from the opposite direction where the production is saying, I can't get this to go together right, something's not right here. We found a way to fix this by making this hole just a little bit bigger. We'll send a request to engineering. Does that look okay to you? Is that going to mess anything else up? And then they'll respond and we make the change from either direction. So it really works.
It sounds like you've got good processes in place there. Was that the case when you first joined, or were those things which have been developed in the meantime?
It's been developed, yeah.
Right.
It's kind of like any job. The processes and the rules and everything, it really comes down to people working with people. If you get along with one another, if you respect one another, if you keep each other in the loop and get feedback from one another, it works all better. So the process are formalizing it, but the people are really what make it happen. It's where the rubber meets the road.
Well, again, on that point, I guess, or on the point of people and getting along together, how big a part would you say social media plays in the way that the company works? As far as
social media is how we were born, I think, Jackie, is that to get the word out so fast. He had that fervor built up from these people, showing a little corner of the play field, and I'm watching the guys doing that. It was just funny as heck. Look at this. I put this arrow insert here that means absolutely nothing, but watch all the speculation it causes. And then people just, you drop a little bit of food in the water and the sharks just, it's crazy. It's like piranha.
Have you noticed any kind of change in the attitude towards the company on social media since you've started manufacturing games? In the early days, you had a year or more where you were revealing, as you say, little sections of the playfield or the artwork or something, and people were getting very excited about that. And now there's an expectation there that every game's going to be at least as good, if not better, than the previous one. And
it's a hard bar to say.
And when you have to do things like you did with Pirates recently, there's a feeding frenzy, and everyone's piling in and saying, oh, well, that's the end of the game, I'm not buying it. But
it's the same guys that were on Wizard of Oz saying you'll never build a game. It's not, you guys all got your money taken away, you don't know it yet, but you've been taken. There's haters out there all the time, people that just got nothing better to do, but shout out from mom's basement, bring me my sandwich and type some negative stuff on the internet. That's just really why I stay away from that stuff. My working with it comes from my Army background too. Working for the Army, they didn't want us to be on social media. It wasn't cool to say, I'm going to Eglin this weekend, on a big test or something. You don't want to be mentioning things like that. So I stayed away from Facebook, stayed away from Twitters and tweetings and all that kind of stuff. Just, I find out somebody will send me something off a pin site just as a link, and I'll look. Did you see this? No, I've seen it, I guess. So, I really don't feed on that. I don't get involved in that. I like to talk to people face to face. I want to see the look in your eye when you're telling me you don't like this or whatever. You ask me a question, I'll give you the answer. I'd much rather social to me is people, not people on keyboards.
do you find people are a lot more appreciative of your work face-to-face as opposed to online?
True, yeah.
I mean, people would probably say things online, I'm putting words in your mouth, if people say things online that they wouldn't say to you face-to-face.
Absolutely. It's the same. It's like people when they get in a car. If we all treat each other in a car like we did if we were passing one another in the Walmart aisle. You wouldn't cut somebody off and reach for something. You wouldn't see somebody coming and try and run, get in front of them and take it first. And like we do in a car, it's like people think they're invisible or something. If we do that same, working face-to-face with one another, everybody would get along much better. And you know, our customers using social media to talk about our games. It's good to talk about our games. You know, we want to be relevant. We want people to be talking about us and interested in what we're doing and sometimes upset. I mean, Hobbit, when it came out, you know, they trashed it thoroughly and had a big long list of suggestions. Some of them we took, some of them we didn't. We reworked the game, we listened to our customers, and we still listen to our customers. We're concerned. We want to give you the best game ever, but it's a business, and you get to a point where you have to get the product out there. You can't keep making little changes and tweaks and hoping and get confident that it's going to be reliable, and that's what we did. It's like a country western song that says, you know, that some kid's telling his grandpa, you know, that I prayed about this and it didn't happen. It was, you know, God answers all your prayers. Sometimes the answer is no. I mean, it isn't always what you get. You can suggest and you can complain about it. It's our product and it's a great game. That small change, those couple of small changes that we made are not going to affect the game that much.
Originally, the plan was to be able to take a game to a show or unveil a game and then have it ready to buy almost at that point. Are you getting closer to that? Certainly doesn't seem like it with the way that Pirates was revealed in October. Or is that now a plan going forward that it will bring those two, the reveal and the availability of the game, much, much closer together?
That's when the company's grown up. That's when we're a real company. Is when you show something and you're ready to sell. You've got a few in a box right behind you to sell. We've got to get there, and that's what we'll do from now on. There'll be no more you show a game and then 6 months later still be answering questions about when I might be getting my game.
Right, so that probably means not revealing a game a year, every year at Expo, no matter what, even if it's not ready.
That's right. I mean, it's exciting stuff. When you've got something like that Pirates game sitting in there and you've got all these cool things and people are dying to know what you're doing, there's just this, you know, I want to show it, I want to show it. And we got it out there and showed it, and everybody loves it, and then, you know, we want to build something that'll work for you and be reliable, and that's where we're at now.
And we need to keep the buzz of the new game
Yes.
out there, which is hard to do.
Yeah, because people aren't going to hold that money in their pocket for very long. They're going to go to someone else who has a game in the box ready to sell you right now.
So has anyone in the audience got any questions from any of that, or indeed from anything that Butch spoke about earlier? Yes, okay. Just pass the microphone, thank you.
I mean, same topic. I love that you guys show games before they're done. It allows people to give you feedback on, I like the artwork, I don't like the artwork, I don't, you know. And so I think with Hobbit, you guys changed some of the art. I'm certain that, you know, this whole experience with Pirates, a lot of the negativity that came from it, there's probably, you know, people talking about holding back now. What is the kind of attitude towards showing your customers, your fans stuff early now, after some of the frustration and negativity that came out of Pirates?
See, like I said, it's going to be it's a policy now to show something when it's ready to ship. You know, we've got a lot of Pirates of the Caribbean games building ahead of us right now. The next game is being worked on. We're not waiting until this one's completely done to start working on the next one. So, you know, when we get finished building Pirates, and we're still building more Wizard of Oz, we're building more Hobbits right now, dialed in. You know, we're stocking those up at the factory. Still selling those. So, you know, the other games coming in, we're going to try and use as many of your common parts as you can, so that, you know, there's less new things to have to worry about. You can save more money on buying parts by buying 2,000 instead of just 1,000. You get a better price break. All those things are playing into it, and hopefully, not hopefully, we will show a game when we've got a game to actually ship. That you'll be looking at the game that's coming in those boxes. It'll be sitting right in front of you. There'll be don't worry about anything changing on it or it not working well. It'll be thoroughly tested at that point. It'll be ready to go. It's got to be.
Software complete.
Manual complete. That'll be the next one, right? Yeah.
For the Canon ship mod or launch, is it going to be more obvious? Because when I talk to most people playing the game, they're like, I don't even know there's a Canon ship feature there. Like, is there actually going to be a molded print printed Canon to
No,
show that feature, or?
When it's interesting, you start taking a play field and doing this with it, you come into all kinds of clearance issues. And the more you add stuff out here, the worse your clearance issues get. We're at the point now where you've got a long enough barrel and a metal chute under that thing to be able to fairly accurately shoot. You can't, put a bunch of more stuff on top of that and then make it longer yet. You're going to start obscuring things like there's so much stuff in that game. The star fields back in the back with the constellations and things. You're going to get a cannon thing that's going to be going across that. It's just something you're going to have to learn to do. I mean, it's like playing whitewater, when you shoot the ball up in that center and it pops up onto that upper play field. I didn't even know that was coming. You aren't going to make that ramp, that Insanity Falls ramp, the first couple of times, but you're going to learn that it's doing that. And that is going to be a huge accomplishment to be able to get that cannon loaded and get a shot off. So you're not going to miss that after a while. You're going to know it's there.
I was wondering if there's anything you could do with the lighting effects in that area to draw your attention to it a bit more.
You darken everything else and you flash
Yeah,
lights
we
back
have
there.
stuff going across the plate, indicating where the ball's going to go.
Flipper on
the
Wizard of Oz,
even.
on the castle,
Yes,
flips
that's right.
a couple times, just like it did on The Simpsons
Yeah.
pinball party, let you know that the ball's coming up there.
Okay, I think we've got time for maybe one more question, if anyone has one. Yes, okay.
Hi there. Not sure if this has been covered already, but I'm curious a little bit about your prototyping. And do you use software? How much of it is physical, and how much is software as you're prototyping for new, effects and experimenting, basically?
Our software guys and our mechanical guys sit in the same building over there. They're doing all this stuff hand in hand. When you just say, I want to put this giant dragon up in the corner of the play field, this Smaug feature, and I'm going to spin him around and have him track the ball around, that involves a motor. So our electrical guy says, well, these are the kind of motors you got that will run at 12 volts. And he says to the software guys, here's the 4 lines of control of that stepper motor. You can do speed, you can do acceleration, deceleration, you can do half steps, you can do all these things using these 4 wires like this, and they give them the data sheet. And those guys, our software guys, if you got a 1200 RPM motor, they want to run it at 1300 RPM. So let's see what it'll do is what Keith will do a lot of times. So, you start working off of that and you see, wow, that guy's going around really fast or something. He's binding, he's doing this, and you got to work with the sculpting guys. And everybody has to work together to make that final product in there. And the software and the hardware is hand in hand. It's literally, you guys are both at the starting line at the same time, and you both get to the finish line at the same time.
Well, I think we have to thank you, Butch, for giving us a huge amount of information and insight into how Jersey Jack Pinball goes. So I'll ask you to put your hands together and thank Butch.
You guys get out there and say thanks to these guys that run these shows, man. Without them, where would we be? We wouldn't have all this cool stuff, and this is not easy to do. So thank you guys, everybody. Much appreciated. Thank you.